Welcome to Witchy Talk,
I'm Nicola, and I'm here with Sophia.
and we are two bitches who happen to be witches.
Let's roll.
Let's roll. Hey,
Hey, how are we going today? Let me just make sure we've got no um reverb coming through on the live stream, and I'll get that up there. Yeah, how are you today, Sophia?
I'm doing well. Just taking a moment here to fill up my cup. It
Yeah.
is tea time.
Nice.
And for those of you that know me, I am a tea fanatic, coffee and teas, but I love my teas.
Mm.
And so tonight I am having some chai tea, my absolute fave, a little bit of honey and cream.
Oh, nice.
And yeah. So I do, there's a couple of teas I use, but some of these bags here have this tags and it says, if you truly love nature, you will find beauty everywhere. Vincent Van Gogh.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love
Heck
that.
yeah. So a message from Sir Vincent tonight, which is interesting because I've just been organizing my books here and I pulled a Vincent Van Gogh book of art off the shelf this evening. So, cheers to Vincent Van Gogh and all my um, creatives out there. Cheers to you, Nicola.
Yeah, that's awesome synchronicity when you get that artwork coming through and the message on your T tag. I love it. There's been heaps of things these
Signs everywhere, right?
days. Totally. I know. There's been so many lately. That's been quite phenomenal, actually. And I was listening to something recently, and they were saying that synchronicities are everywhere. And the only reason why you don't notice them is if you're not in the right vibration to notice it in that moment. So the more in alignment you get with your own vibration and your own life path, then the more synchronicities you'll notice, and they're always around, but it's whether or not your perception can pick up on them. And so it's so cool when you start to see more because you're like, fuck yeah, it's like seeing 1111 everywhere, except it's not actually 1111. It's seeing, at the moment, it's like Greek goddesses everywhere and people going to Greece. And then people who I know who I decide I want to, like, oh, I haven't heard from that person in ages. I might have a look at their Facebook and see what they're doing. And they're in Greece. And it's like, how this is just insane.
And that's freaking wild because as we're talking, it's been Greek goddesses for me everywhere. So
Yeah,
pretty wild to me, man. That's freaking awesome.
it is, eh? And it kind of started around my birthday when my mum got me the novel Circe. So these
Wow. Okay.
beautiful female writers have been writing about the Greek goddesses, and so yeah, so I read that book Circe, who's the goddess of witchcraft in the Greek pantheon, and yeah, that was a really beautiful book. And sometimes I struggle to read novels, and I read that in like probably 2 months, which is a record for me with any book.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that's the one you just finished, right?
yeah, that's the one I just finished. So yeah, I highly recommend. The first couple of chapters were a bit kind of sketchy, just laying out, characters and everything. But once it got going, I was like, wow, it's really beautifully written and just feeling into the flow of the magic and how she created her own magic, which is essentially how we all operate in witchcraft. There's all these beautiful guidelines and the path, the way showers that came before, but essentially we can amalgamate everything and create our own practice within it. And yeah, so it's a really beautiful book. And then now I'm reading Hera, which is a different author, but equally as beautifully written. So yeah, just they all just like popped out of out of the ethers. And we're right.
Oh, I'm laughing with a smile.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of been the journey I've been on too, which is different for me. I was sharing with you in my practice, to work with deities in that way. I do a lot of death work and ancestral veneration and honoring my ancestors in my practice, and so it's something new for me. But I've been really, really having a good time reading the stories and the history and how a lot of this runs parallel and how we can relate to that in our own way, right?
Mm,
Um, and find inspiration from their stories and what they have to share with us in the life they live. And I think that's the beauty of a lot of these archetypes and how they still live through that, and through who they were and um, their practice. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
mm. Definitely, definitely. And that I feel like I've been through seasons of being I guess infatuated a little bit, or mesmerized, or just
Mm,
encapsulated by the different like mythologies and pantheons and stuff.
mhm.
Like go through that really Norse mythology and like diving in and really connecting with the different elements of Norse, and I guess pop culture really brings that, around as well. Depending
Right. Yeah.
what's out there in terms of, the Thor movies, or you know,
Right.
or Vikings, and different things like that that really bring it um into the front of your face, and then you really think, oh, I want to go into that more. But then, having my period where you just really feel so drawn to the Egyptian figures, and like Thoth and Sekhmet and Ra. And so they all overlap, and they all are different fragments within the different um, you know places that they come from. um, they all come back to the same source for each one. I really
Mm.
connect with another Sumerian goddess, but then through the Greek pantheon, Persephone really comes in, and they mirror
Oh
each other.
yeah.
And
Oh
so,
yeah.
working with the both of them when connecting in, um, yeah, it's really powerful. And then Circe and Hecate, like these really like deep primal witchcraft goddesses that you can really connect into both, and they both bring a different kind of like aspect to what you're wanting to invoke through them. So yeah, I love overlapping and kind of like creating like these grids, like these goddess grids that you and I have been working on together,
Oh
and
yeah.
that I enjoy creating for people, where you can create these visual goddess grids, I call them, where you can bring in all these different elements, ascended masters, and star beings, and then different aspects from these different godheads and figures and goddesses that you really resonate with, to create like this visual representation of like how that can you can help embody it when you like look at it every day. So like making them as screensavers, so you can have them on your phone and on your laptop, so that every time you look at it you also feel like connected, and then that has been created specifically for you using like the symbology and the colors, and all these different aspects that really like resonate and call to you, so you can feel connected in with them every day. I guess it's kind of like creating like a digital altar.
Yeah.
I only just thought of it like that. Like I'm calling it
Yeah.
goddess grid, because like when I look at it, I'm like, it's a grid and there's goddesses. But I'm like, yeah, it's like creating a digital altar that you can like you see it every day when you open your laptop, and or on your phone. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's interesting the way you put it because well I'm very visual and I think that's been like such a huge difference for me is to be able to see it, right? Like that's how I process things is, so if I know what works for me as far as like being a visual learner and really, really incorporating that into my being, my practice by being able to see that. And the work you do is so beautiful. I mean, it's definitely channeled work in the sense it's so personal and unique as to the aspects that you tie, and it's a live altar too. Like it's how can I say this? You had talked about making a format where I could have it on my cellular device. And I'm like, this is so wonderful because I do a lot of work out in nature. And so I'm like, this would be great, if I'm on the go or performing a ritual out in nature, I'm on a walk, I'm doing a lot of hikes. It's awesome to have that with me. Exactly as you said, a digital altar, so I'm not taking all my gear with me, right? But I'm able to have that visual on my phone or my tablet, uh, or with me in my study. And so I'm really, really looking forward to getting the one you've been working on up on my screen,
Yeah.
because I think it's going to help a lot with what I've been working on and putting it to life, you know.
It's starting to come together really friggin' awesome. I'm getting so excited about it. Yeah.
Your work is truly amazing. So for those of you that don't know, yeah, so Nicola's very very creative, and so if you're looking at that beautiful picture for our witchy talk, that was all done by the goddess herself, and just a beautiful, beautiful, amazing work. And I think too, this is something I was reading as far as working with um, Hecate, as far as really reaching out to the creative and artists. And so I think too, that's why particularly she's been coming through for me. And I can definitely see that with a lot of the work that you do as well. With your visuals, they're just wow, beautiful and amazing. And so thank you for your work with that.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoy it. It's really meditative when I'm doing it as well. I don't find it stressful. So yeah. Otherwise, yeah, I wouldn't enjoy it, right? So yeah, I enjoy that visual aspect of creating something beautiful and harmonizing and bringing different aspects in. So of color and building texture and those kind of things. So and depth of field, like I find creating something like that, especially if it's going to be on your laptop or a screen, something that you're looking at, like you don't want it to be a completely flat image that you're looking at. You want it to have
Right.
a bit of depth of field, like a bit of relief for your eyes. I find that looking at a completely flat screen, you know, sometimes I'll have like a landscape screensaver on there that has hills
Mm.
that go off into the distance because I can look at my screen and my eyes feel relaxed because there is a horizon and there's distance and perspective within the screen I'm looking at, whereas if you're looking at a flat image that is like just completely one level. Yeah, it doesn't have any depth of field. I find my I'm quite sensitive with my eyes. I've started to realize in terms of that. I was staying at a friend's place recently, and it's in a converted industrial area, and so the kitchen
Oh,
doesn't.
cool.
Yeah, it's quite a cool area, but the kitchen doesn't have an expel air, and so the windows were just really all built up with grime and from cooking and stuff. And I was getting headaches from being in that room, and it took me a few days to figure out. And I cleaned one of the windows, and I was just like, oh my god, my eyes can relax. Like I can see into the distance, and some people can like they're not bothered by that, obviously. It doesn't hurt their eyes or they don't get a headache. So I like cleaned the whole window and I was just like, oh, my mind, my eyes could relax because they could see out to the horizon. And I don't know if it's to do with like where I grew up and being able to, we're up on a hill and we can see like quite
Yeah.
like from our balcony we can see there's we're in the North Island and you can see the South Island from where I am, and you can see all the southern Alps, which is sometimes covered in snow, and they're like way off in the distance, on the horizon. These hills, tiny little, but they're actually massive, and covered in snow. So I don't know. I think my eyes are used to being
Mm.
able to have that massive depth of field that you can see. And I don't know. It's just an interesting. It would be interesting to compare with someone that's just grown up, with not with living in a very flat area where they don't have that higher perspective. And yeah, I never thought of that before until then. So, that's why these conversations are good.
Well, that's very interesting. And I'm actually looking at my screensaver that is a lot of green trees and open ocean that kind of expands out into like a sea of clouds. And
Yeah.
I get what you're saying that because I live in a desert. So it is very flat here unless I drive into the mountains. Which I mean we've got different landscapes, but as you're saying this, it seems like perhaps because of where you lived and having that view has really helped um, add that to your work,
Mm,
right? So like seeing the beyond, right, and the expanse and all of that, because that has been a part of your daily life.
mm. Oh, totally, totally. And when I traveled, when I was traveled, the furthest I'd ever traveled before, which was before COVID, just before COVID in 2019, and I went straight to Europe, to the Czech Republic, and to these landlocked countries, and I
Mm.
didn't see the open ocean for. I saw a harbour, but apart from that, like I didn't see open ocean for 3 months, I think. And yeah, the first time I saw the open ocean, like I cried, like, because
Yeah,
wow, like I didn't realize how, you know, valuable it is because that's what I've grown up knowing, and it's always been there. It's always, when I drive, away from home, it's always to to my right, and when I come home, it's always to my left. And my lights in my room are flickering hard out at the moment. And so, like, it's yeah, it's always been this like constant having the ocean right there, and I
yeah,
don't think I've ever taken it for granted, but it's like, um, yeah, it is its own personality because it's so dynamic and it's so changeable. The ocean, we can have hills and cheap, and they can change with the seasons as well. But the ocean can change on a daily with the weather that rolls in.
yeah.
It's so dynamic. And cleansing and purifying, being able to access the ocean and the beach. So yeah, the first time I saw it was when I arrived in Ireland, during my travels, and I was in a house in the southeastern part, below down from Dublin, and I was like, okay, coastal beach. I like got there and unloaded my thing, and then I think, yeah, drove straight to the beach, and it was, yeah, very similar to a New Zealand. It's just like, oh god, I was a bit homesick at that point.
I was gonna say a little homesick, eh?
Totally. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it becomes a part of our life, it's so entwined in our day. And so I've been doing a lot of work out in nature hikes, and some nature programs here, and a lot of people that I meet, like, so we'll have groups of like 20 come out, and right now we're doing night hikes, which has been beautiful and awesome. Um, we usually have them timed around the new moon, the dark moon, and the full moon. And so both of those bring different aspects, as far as like, when we're out under a dark moon, we do a lot of um, star talks. We're able to show different constellations and asterisms and star clusters and whatnot through the night skies. And the full moon, we're working with a lot of like nocturnal animals, bats and owls and um, spiders and scorpions and all kinds of cool stuff out here in the desert. But it's interesting because I always ask everyone like, "Hey, is this your first time out?" Um, recently we had some students out on the hike that are studying here at the local university, and people from all over the world, and like, "Oh, this is my first time out on a hike," or I've been here studying for the last few years, and this is my first time getting out, because they've been in this city, and they're like, "Wow, this is like such an amazing new thing." I'm out, with the trees and under the sky, and I think, how could you not be, like,
Mm.
because it's such a part of, for me, it's a part of my lifestyle, my daily practice is being out, with the earth and being out with the trees and being out in nature. And I know that, like, if time goes on, I tend to get pretty, my wife says, pretty cranky. She's like, you gotta get out. You gotta get out under the trees, Sophie, and I'm like, yeah, I know, so it's just one of those things where you talk about that homesickness, that it's, I don't want to say we take it for granted, but maybe when you're away from it, you notice like how big of a part of your life it really is, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that like being like in the forest is one of my favorite places to be. Like that deep forest feel, like you feel like you are held by the energy of the trees. And I enjoy going to the beach. The beach is very fresh and cleansing, but going into the forest, I just like my whole energetic system just like lights up, and I feel like I'm just like zing. Like,
And you guys have massive trees there. I've looked at maps with you online, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I see green everywhere.
yeah. We got a
We
lot.
have trees, but not like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
But your night walks and stuff, bush hikes and stuff that you do, it looks so cool with like the scorpions and the different nightlife that you see. And yeah, it looks so informative as well, and you're learning a lot, aren't you, in terms of like bringing a lot of wisdom to those hikes, so that when people come, they're like really well informed on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole idea is, well, for me is in a hope to inspire others to protect and conserve, what we have, and the beauty around us, and Mother Earth, and we're working with kids from 5 to 75. And so the beauty in that is, we get to see all different ages and all different stages, including myself. It's every time is something different, and that's the journey, right? If you keep your eyes open, you keep your heart open, you keep your mind open, I'm learning every step of the way. And having the opportunity to connect like that is just wonderful, opposed to like when you're talking about going to the Czech Republic or places like Prague, or for me it might be like New York City, right? Like everything's so enclosed, so that expanse of being out in open nature versus like there's buildings all around me. So it's looking out versus looking in, right? At that point, I'm kind of like pushed to go inwards.
Mm.
Um, and that need to just get out and stretch out, you know. Um, I know because I work in the city, like I start to feel closed in. I'm like, I'm not a city girl. I have to be out in space, like, um, but there's beauty in all of it, right? There's a time to go inward, there's a time to expand outward. And so um I I take that as part of the journey, all of it,
Yeah, totally. And you know,
but
yeah, I know what you're saying. Mm. Yeah, there's like inward reflection that we can get like this, when you say there's a time to go inwards, like I feel like for a lot of people, like the inward aspect is like a lot of self-reflection and self-analysis and being able to like look at the patterns of life and feel into if something is um like a karmic pattern or an ancestral pattern, or this pattern's played out 5 times in my life already. I really got to look at this. Like, there's like these, these like, it's time for this to stop now.
I'm like, wasn't I just talking about this?
Yeah.
uh, Synchronicities, right? No, I mean, yeah, totally. And that introspection, right? And retrospection and
Yeah.
um the journey, right? Self-knowledge and growth. And it's not always easy.
Mm. Yeah, well, it's not, but we were talking, and saying that it's not easy, but you know, is it worth the hard road of like actually seeing yourself for your own downfalls and understanding and realizing maybe how have I perpetuated a situation? How have my actions created something? And then really looking at that, like that's hard to do. That's really hard
Mm,
to do. A lot of people don't get to the place where they can look at that. They will, this is where the whole saying comes in, is that how comfortable are you in your uncomfortable zone? Because like our comfort zone, if we're perpetuating our own cycles of, our own neuroses and our own feeding our ego and being caught in drama cycles, like how, it can be hard to look at that. But is it going to be harder to go through that situation again of like, do you really want to go through that heartbreak or despair or confusion or all that miscommunication with a whole situation? Like, do we really want to repeat that cycle over and over again, with, different dynamics, especially when it comes to like a partner? And, there's the whole thing, all of those 6 ex-boyfriends were all terrible and they had the same pattern happen every time and they're all the same. And it's like, we've all heard this. It's like, no, you're the same person. You're the person that's created that. So that's the person to look at to change, not the external, So it's hard to be that self-reflective where we can look at ourselves with compassion and try and move through it so that we are not perpetuating that cycle with the next person, or with the next situation or the next job scenario and our boss or whoever. We have
mm,
these perpetual dynamics that keep playing out. If you own a business and you keep getting staff members who fuck you over and steal from you and da 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 da, and you're just like, oh fuck these people, like I have to keep my circle small, I keep attracting fucked up people. It's like, well, how are you perpetuating that? Like, how, you're obviously attracting people to you for that reason, so that you can play out some kind of probably a past life,
Mm,
or a karmic tie that hasn't been resolved, or you've got a fractured past life retrieval that needs to happen so that you can like unravel why it is that you keep on attracting that same situation to yourself
mm,
because you
mm.
haven't learned what it is that you need to learn. And we know that most of these lessons either distill down to compassion for self or others and forgiveness for self or others. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, and love for self. It's like everything distills down pretty much to forgiveness and compassion to self and others. But like it can be a hard place to go, and sometimes we can only go deep enough to like to just be at one layer of that compassion for self and others, and then maybe the next situation doesn't play out quite in an extreme dramatic way, but you've kind of like unraveled a little bit so that you can look at the next layer, and we see that analogy in spirituality where it's a spiral, that instead of being um, you know, caught in the perpetual spiral going down. Like it's more like we're coming back to look at another layer, and we're coming back to look at another layer, so we can go upwards out of it. So it's just all about your perception. If you're in the spiral, or you're going down, or you're going up. Um, so yeah, I love past life regressions, and I love like talking about this kind of stuff, obviously, because I think there's so many like threads that like link all of these synchronicities and all of these situations that keep repeating themselves. Sometimes like yeah, like you could just superimpose other people's faces over in the situations exactly. It's like mental. uh,
That's it, man. Same shit, different face, right?
Yeah, totally. And then you attract friends like for you and I who have like pretty much identical dynamic of things happening, and it's like, whoa, so we've connected so that we can heal that deeper level and reflect back to each other, it's mind blowing. And but that's
Absolutely. That's pretty wild. I think we were both going through the same shit about the same time, just shortly after we met online. And that's the power of the universe, that's universal love. And I think once we grow into that space where we're ready for that next step and to move forward on our path, right? Um, that same thing with the love and the forgiveness. And um I had a light bulb moment where I was like, wow, I saw how key that really is. And when I think about like past situations, romantic relationships or friendships that gone awry, and I started to look at like the same situations happening like a few times, and I was like, man, this shit is getting old. And it wasn't necessarily that I was blaming other people, for lack of better terms. Maybe I didn't want to exactly accept what was going on, but I found myself one evening sitting in my apartment, like, Sophie, the thing that's constant here is you. you know, if I look at all these situations, the one consistent thing in all of those relationships was me. And I'm like, what am I going to do to change this? Whether it was having the courage to face things and know that I should probably love myself more, or maybe respect myself, so then I can permeate that and not allow shitty situations to continue to happen. You know, for me, I realized if I had, loved myself more, had respect, then I maybe perhaps wouldn't have allowed those things to continue to happen.
yeah.
Um, but you talk about the past life regressions and whatnot. For me, ultimately, I realized it was a generational thing, um, which which was hard when I had to look at it in the face, because a lot of the things I had gone through, as a young child and through my adolescent years, my birth mother had went through, and her mother had went through, and her mother had went through.
Oh,
And so, I mean, it was 4 generations of trauma.
mm, wow. Yeah.
And and it took me years for that to really, again, that light bulb moment, as I remembered this today as I was changing out the light bulbs in
Yeah.
my bathroom. I was like, I had like three of the four light bulbs out. I had one of the two light bulbs out. And so I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I want to be fully illuminated here. I get it.
Yeah.
Where are these different spaces I have to go through? Aha, I see, and but it's the cracks in the pottery, right, that we feel. And it's those gold veins, and it's the gold in those pains, that it's the wisdom that we gain, as we walk through this journey of life.
Mm,
And you can always try again,
yeah.
but I think the hardest part in those moments for me anyways has been, acceptance, right? Whether it's self-acceptance, or for me, beating myself up, like, oh, here we are again, or why did I do this again, or how did I do this again? But through that acceptance, ultimately I was able to acknowledge, and then make the choice to change the situation, right? Flip the script, write a new chapter. But that started with me. And that in itself could be hard, in the sense of, we're our own worst self-critic, right? Like, I know I can be hard on myself. I know that's just something, not by choice, but I am. I tend to, um as I grow in this path, I think I tend to set a higher standard for myself, and a certain expectation of, I should have known better, I should have done better.
Mm,
And then, I have to remind myself that I am part human.
mm, mm, mm.
you
Totally.
know and and there's a beauty in that crack in the pottery, and there's a beauty in the growth. And sometimes it has to be all broken down so it can be built back up again.
Yeah.
And that is beautiful too. And so, yeah, I'm rolling with it. We were chatting a little bit earlier before we got on, and here we experienced this lunar eclipse, and I follow the moon cycles and a little bit of astrology. And um and it being in Pisces, which is the end of, um you know the end sign of the astrology, the last sign of the astrology. And when I think about, things like seasons, for me, I've gone through a season, and this season for me was about a year and a half. And so this season of self-love, and journeying through this to get here to forgiveness. Self-love and forgiveness, these things we work through. And forgiving others has really allowed me to forgive myself. And that has been a huge key. And coming back through with the moon and this eclipse and this super full moon that's going on outside right now, um and how everything comes together in its divine timing. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that we are gifted so much, from the universe, and this grand universe, for us to utilize as a tool and to help with our growth, if we're open to it, um, especially if you work with the moons, and having the opportunity to use the moon phases and the energy of the moon to really help assist you, as you're going through these things, and, or what I say, growing through these things. And for that, I'm grateful, to have the opportunity. And another day, another day, another opportunity to continue on this path moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I liked what you said about, growing through things and, as hard as some of the things in our lives are and looking at how horrendous the trials and tribulations are that some people go through, depending on what you choose to believe. But I believe that and feel that, when we come into this life, we create, essentially what we want to experience in this life, but through the lessons that we want to learn, and as soon as you can learn that lesson, then your soul advances, or there's the next thing. So I feel like, and
Mhm.
this is all based in the astrology, and if you really look at your natal chart, and where everything is positioned within your houses, you can feel
Oh
and
yeah,
what your life lessons are based on your sun and your rising and all these different aspects. But, as a soul, before you came in, were you really truly believed that you could overcome these things and that you could learn these lessons? And, if things keep repeating, that is still the lesson that you are to learn. And you didn't agree for those things to continue to repeat. You
right.
wanted to learn that lesson, and the universe is trying to show up in as many ways as it can for you to learn the lesson. There's only so many ways it can show these things through to you. And I'm just getting like tingles all up the back of my neck and stuff.
Oh, me too. I got it all over my arms.
And so, it's up to us to have the capacity and the ability to have the self-reflection, to be able to look at the self, without judgment and without criticism, and have compassion and understand that the situation, and compassion towards everyone in whatever dynamic and whatever situation it is,
Yeah, yeah.
that is their soul lesson playing out. And that could be like a spiritual bypass, and you're like, oh well, that was their soul lesson, it doesn't matter that I was horrible to them. It's like, well, no,
Mm,
that's not part of the soul lesson, because that is you being horrible. Like, there's and like I said earlier, it's going to come down to love, compassion, and those understandings of being able to see, that people are doing the best they can with what they have, and where they are on
correct.
this journey, and where they are, and in what they are understanding in their lifetime, and what they've accumulated in terms of their knowledge and their ability to self-reflect and to look at themselves, and be like, I'm being super critical of all the people around me. So how am I being critical of myself? And being, super harsh and judgmental, or, um, all these outward emotions and judgments that, in terms of like turning that back and reflecting that on you.
Hmm.
Anything you criticize and judge in life is just going to show up more, so that you can, that's clearly some compassion shit you're really gonna look at.
Yeah,
you know? So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, so it's all like this. I'm really like getting into this whole life path thing, and I haven't got into gene keys, and I haven't got into human design too much, but I know that it's just going to blow my mind when I do. Like, I've got a little bit there, but I know the gene keys go into like these different aspects of the life path, and how you really can thrive. And that's just me being a Gemini and wanting to learn a million fucking things, but but I think and I'm being self-critical of myself, that I dabble and I move between one thing and the other, and I just need to allow myself to be like, well, that's just who I am. And I'm not going to be a master astrologer, or I'm not going to be a
Yeah.
master this or a master that. I'm going to take a little bit, and I'm going to cultivate it, and I'm going to blend all of these things to create my own thing. And that's just the way that I operate, based on my passion, and how I flow. And if I think if I sat down and I tried to be a master astrologer or a master this or a master that, I I wouldn't I just I wouldn't be happy, because I know that there's so much more. Yeah, that I just have the capacity to grasp and move through. And even if it is surface, it's like, well, that's clearly obviously all I needed to know in that moment, and then I can come back to it again and again. And so it's, yeah, like there's a level of understanding how you operate. And I had a reading done earlier this year, and he said, um, it's time to stop working on yourself and start working with yourself. But it's about,
Oh my gosh, it's so deep, yeah.
yeah, it is, a. And then the other thing he said that kind of like was on the off the back of that, he said it's time to make who you are work better for you. So it's understanding who you are and how you can operate at your best capacity. And if that means that you have an afternoon nap, then that means you have an afternoon nap. If that means that you learn a little bit of this here, a little bit of that here, and you come back to this and that, so long as you're always building on, what you're doing, figuring out how you can make you work better for yourself, instead of going against the grain, and you can say that that is like, you want to be an artist, but you think that you should be a lawyer, or you want to be a musician, but you think you should be an accountant, like that's just breaking it down to a really simplified level, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, if we're looking at, going inwards, right? Like we're talking about the inward reflection, self-analysis you had mentioned. Um, it's flipping the script. If I'm analyzing myself, not to say that I'm my own worst critic and looking at every pit, picking apart every little thing, but um analyzing it in the sense that I do want to grow and I do want to learn and I do want to apply myself in other ways. And how can I flip that script and use it as a tool to, um, further that growth, right, and expansion, and not really look at it as something bad or a fault, so to say. Because the journey of self discovery and self knowledge is a lifelong journey here, anyways.
Yeah.
And when I think about like ongoing things and patterns and situations that repeated, and having those moments or that light bulb moment to say, this is not going to fucking happen again. This cannot happen again. Like I know, like my mission is to not come back here, to learn the lessons I need to learn so I can move forward.
Mm.
um because I know I've been here before. This is not the first go round. So how many times are we going to keep being shown these things until we actively make a decision to say, I'm going to change. I'm going to change that situation now. I'm going to get behind the wheel, right? And getting back on track. Um, I was listening to something earlier, talking about, we're talking about our practice, right? And all these things that make up our practice, and it's all unique. Um, so I've been on this journey of, when we're saying putting the pieces together, I think we both do puzzles. So I think
Yeah.
you can relate to that, right? One piece here, one piece there. Sometimes I might start with the corners first, or I work on one side and then I start filling it in from one side to the other. And then I kind of start on the left corner and start filling it in that way, or maybe start in the middle and work out. That doesn't always work, right? You kind of got to bring it all together. Um, and then you get a method or maybe a style or something that works for you, where you're like, maybe if I just start with the corners or start from the right to the left, then that will kind of help to expedite it or make it a little bit smoother than it.
Mm. Your technique, eh? Oh, Sophia dropped out. Are you there? Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been like on a roll where like you put one piece and then one piece and then one piece and you're like, oh shit, yeah, dude. It's all coming together, right? And you're like, this is fucking great. I found this piece, I found that piece, I found this piece, and it's all coming together. Um, and then there's moments where I'll sit there and I look at the puzzle and it seems like I can't find a piece that fits.
Yeah.
It's not matching up, or where is that piece I'm looking for? Like I'm so close,
Yeah.
I I'm just trying to complete this puzzle. I know this has to go there. Or I don't know if it was like 1,000 piece or 5,000 piece puzzle, the tiny little pieces, and after a while, like, you get in it and I could spend hours at a puzzle and, just getting in it and you're like, man, I don't know if the pieces are all starting to look the same, or I kind of like I want to make this piece work here. Like it doesn't seem like it exactly fits, but it kind of looks like it does.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna try to make it fit, but it doesn't quite fit right, or it's kind of askew.
Mm. I
And
think
it's not until you go back and you realize that piece actually went somewhere else.
totally, totally. It's
And then you're like, oh, okay.
yeah, it's like, when things are flowing and you're getting a lot of pieces in, it's like that's the alignment in your life. When you're doing things and like the next thing just lines up and you've got a flow to your life, like all the pieces of the puzzle just fit. You have a conversation with someone and then the book appears and then the opportunity opens and then that flows and then the other people arrive and then the event happens or the thing or the project all comes together. But then when you can't get any pieces in, like that's when you're out of alignment and you're probably either frustrated or you've like
Oh yeah.
fallen back into your neuroses where you're just like perpetuating cycles of like anger or frustration or repeating patterns or replaying conversations in your head, and you can't get any pieces of the puzzle to fit and things don't line up because you're not actually your frequency isn't elevated. Your frequency is like in those denser lower vibrational like dense emotions that harbor those dense energies that attract entities, and then that's the kind of thing that then when you're attracting those then they latch on, and that's when you can get stuck in that depression and anxiety and despair, and that can like linger when you've got that apathy that goes on and nothing seems to be going right. So it's like how do you switch from one to the other, and it's all a state of mind. Like I think pretty sure that scientists have now just been like, yeah, the universe is an illusion. Like it's all projected from our minds. Like we are living in a hologram. Like
Oh yeah.
you
Oh
you
yeah.
you can, and fucking science is catching up to everything that the esoteric, teachings have been talking about for thousands and thousands of years. So it's like, how can we change our thinking to switch that flick that switch off, which is the cycling patterns where the puzzle pieces don't fit, and be in that place where everything just lights up, like in the Matrix, where things just seem to be illuminated on the path. The white rabbit is glowing, so you follow it. Like what is lighting up so that and that's your intuition, and that's your guides pointing out things, and that's yeah, like following the path of least resistance when you're in flow with what you're supposed to be doing with your life, when you're following your life path. And this is where your astrology
Mm-hmm.
chart comes in, because if you can look at that and know that, yeah, there's going to be resistances in certain areas of your life, or there's going to be a flow, to certain things, then you can follow that. It is a map. It is a map to how to live your life. And it's not about reading essentially what is in the paper, or anything. It's about looking at the star signs and the planets, and how they work together, and and what each of those things represents, and how that can affect your emotions at certain times, like with the full moon and Pisces, and how that's going to affect you, and if how much Pisces do you have in your chart, and how is that going to be illuminated, and what is that showing you? I don't have anything in Pisces at all anywhere in my chart, so that's probably why this isn't affecting me very much.
You darn Geminis. I
Yeah,
live
yeah,
with a
totally.
Gemini here, so I get that. It's
Yeah.
like, oh man, dude. Yeah, this eclipse, I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Well, Pisces is in my house of friendship, but I don't have any planets in that house. So my friendships are all pretty fucking amazing at the moment. So
Yeah,
good,
dude,
like,
flowing. I love that.
yeah. So and even the eclipse, you would think that the eclipse would, for me personally anyway, because Pisces is in my 11th house, which is friendship, um, would the eclipse would bring about and surface anything that
Ah,
isn't sitting well, and nothing's come up. So like it's knowing and looking into that, and understanding how that can play out. So then you can, like, you know look to the future, or look to next month and see what's coming up, and being aware of how you may feel, and um, and rolling with it.
oh, absolutely, and regardless if you don't believe it or not, it's science, I
Oh,
mean, all of these things play aspect in so many different levels.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah.
It's we're moving into our winter months, and so right now, like I'm looking forward to camping, getting out on the hikes. So I know it's gonna be getting cold. I'm starting to pull out my sweaters and my jackets and
Mm,
prepare myself for that, and and again, I think that's another beautiful way that this grand universe gives us tools to use on our path,
mm,
to help us, and to help illuminate that pathway for us. And as we go in for that inward reflection and that self-analysis, and you know um these patterns that you mentioned, these patterns that we see in life, and moving forward through those things. And um I think as we grow through them, Nicola, we things things do become a little easier. They do seem to flow. And as you mentioned, your life path, I've had those instances. And as I've gone through this season, and through forgiveness and a lot of the things that I've been working through over the year, and noticing now how things have come into alignment, and you're like, wow, that feels really good. You mentioned something earlier, synchronicities are everywhere.
mm.
You just got to be in the right vibration to notice it.
Yeah.
So if I'm in that pit of despair and sorrow and woe is me, then I'm probably not going to be seeing that things are lining up, right? And what am I vibrating so I can welcome that alignment into my life?
Yeah. 100%. Definitely.
you
Mm.
know i I'm filling up my cup. It's
Mm.
empty. What am I going to fill it up with? Right now, some hot tea.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And like, the life path is like, when those things just like light up and line up, it's easy to move yourself out of it, because there's a disbelief that things can be easy, and that things can just fall into place. We're like programmed with it when we're little. We've all heard it. Like, things don't come easy, money doesn't grow on trees, or you can't just walk through life like it's a fucking, walk in the park,
Right.
and so we're programmed to think, if good things happen, that they're not going to last, and that something bad will come and
Oh yeah. Isn't
and
that crazy?
yeah, totally.
Like things are going good and you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? And you're like, I'm like, what the shit, you know? That's kind of fucked up, right? I mean, things are going good. Why can't they just be good? Why
Exactly.
can't they just be fucking great?
They can be good and they can be like a little bit of a roller coaster because there's like new awareness and there's like just more expansion and you're looking at things, but there's no like plummet, you know. It's not like the roller coaster has had a piece chucked out of it and then the carriage just like plummets down and then there's like carnage, like
Oh yeah. Ooh, I'm big into roller coasters. I get this visual. Talk
yeah,
about visual.
yeah, we
No,
can
it kind of works its way up, right? I mean, it works its way up to the height and then it kind of just, got a little bit of a drop, but eventually it smooths out,
yeah,
right?
and it's twists and turns.
Got an arm flying over here, a leg. Cart just drops right from under you.
Yeah, like someone's come along, like your E, yeah,
Man, let's
your
talk about some horror flicks here.
your negative self-talk comes along and it's
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna remove a chunk of this roller coaster and like takes it out. So I'm just
that
like,
is one heck of a horror flick in my mind.
and all the people you're taking with you, because you've got your friends and your family on that roller coaster with you, like all the people you see and that are part of,
Yeah.
and it just goes and plummet.
Yeah, if they're in that cart with you, they're going to be affected by that too, right? They're going down with you as well.
Totally, totally. And so that is like when you go into a negative spiral because a little thing happens and then you spiral and then, yeah, carnage. So instead of that, you know, things happen and we can just roll with it. And then, yeah, I'd like to end on this. Like the way to flow through that is to be like, I'm not that bothered, like. And it's not that you're not that bothered about horrific things that happen in the world because we are bothered by those. But, I'm running late for work and someone cuts me off. I'm not that bothered. It's okay. You know, things happen. The person that you really wanted to date doesn't text you back. Ghosting.
Mm,
Yeah, for me, that's the big thing. I'm not that bothered. It's okay. I'm going to be okay. There's going to be more people. There's going to be other things. I'm not that bothered. And then that way you don't plummet, you don't spiral. You got to believe it when you say it, but it's like you want to like self reinforce the fact that I'm all good. I'm all good either way. If they text me back and they want to go on another date, I'm all good. If they don't want to text me back and they don't want to go on another date, I'm all good with that too. Or whatever it is, getting a job, not getting a job, I'm all good either way. Shit's always working out for me, you know? So if that's
yeah.
that's that's how I have learnt anyway to stay on that path of like not spiraling out and not going into the carnage in the last year. Since my last carnage incident, it is my
Lost a few limbs. We're putting ourselves back together. We're getting back on that track, ready for another roller coaster ride. But this time we're going to stay intact, right?
yeah, the tracks intact. We're back on
Hey,
track
life,
and the tracks
life,
intact.
that's right. Shit, yeah, because I'm in and I'm strapped
Yeah.
and looking forward to another wild ride. And I think I think it's taking those moments. I actually have a saying that really sticks out to me is que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. And it's not that I'm living my life irresponsibly in that sense. It's having the courage and the faith to know whatever will be, and being okay with that, because when I look at it now and I think about those situations, I was again rolling through this shit and I think about a previous relationship I was in. This came up the other day. And I was like, shit, at that moment, I was so heartbroken. I was so stuck in it. And oh, woe is me, and I had to let go. And what do you know?
Yeah.
Flash forward, 13 years later, here I am living my happiest life with the love of my life, and more than I could ever imagine. You
Beautiful.
know, just trusting that, so what? I gotta let it go.
Yeah.
And that in itself is beautiful,
Mhm.
is having the courage to detach, right? And knowing when to stay strapped and say, nope, I'm sticking to this, I'm focused, I'm moving forward. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing.
Mm. Yeah.
Helen Keller. The golden opportunity you are seeking is in yourself. Mary Engelbrett. This is a little talk about synchronicities. 100 small comforts. I've been cleaning out our office space here, and I found this little book today with these quotes. And the golden opportunity you are seeking is in yourself. And I believe that if we make the choice to move forward, and we take those moments to seek time within ourselves, we will find that inner wealth, and that health that we seek to find is inside. It's
Yeah.
inside our heart, and it's inside our minds. And um, moving forward, thank you for your insight on this. And
Yeah.
um,
It's been a great.
definitely food for thought. And uh, let's be thankful for the tools we have, and hopefully we can strap on our tool belt and use them, right? Make
Yeah.
it a little bit easier as we start putting together the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it exactly, is that implementing it. There's a knowing, but then there's an implementing, and you can't just know how to make the cake. Like, you have to use the ingredients and make the cake. You have to put the tools into place and practice and use them, utilize them. So there's a knowing, but then there's a doing. You know, and then that
I
moves.
do know. Yeah, you've got to turn the oven on. This happened to me the other day. I was baking a banana bread, and my aunt was so happy because she was like, I'm craving banana bread, Sophie. And I'm like, I got you. I got you. I've been wanting to make some. I had all the ingredients and everything. Everything worked out. The bananas were nice and ripe. So she's sitting there waiting. I set the timer on the stove for 55 minutes. We're waiting. She's like, should be around time. And I'm like, oh shit. I look in the oven. I realize they're not rising. And
Gosh,
I'm like, you're not going to fucking believe this. Mm, I didn't turn the oven on, right?
you're like, I should be able to smell it by now. Nope.
I should be able to smell it by now. That's exactly what I thought. I was like, something ain't right here. Got all the ingredients, got all the mixing bowls out, got everything prepped and ready to go, but I did not turn on the oven. So, y'all don't forget to turn on the oven, right?
I
Turn
love
it on, hit that power button.
I love that, to finish on that note. That's awesome. Yeah.
Shit, yeah, guys. Well, man, it's always so nice to meet you, greet you. Cheers to a cup of tea. Cheers to eclipse season and moving forward, wrapping it up.
Yeah.
Um, with the end of things, there's always a beginning of new things. And I'm so excited for all the wonderful new things you're doing. And I'm really looking forward to catching up with you for a past life regression session. I'm ready to move to level 2, Nicholas. So we've got
Yeah.
to we've got to catch up there, man. And
Let's go deep. Yeah.
yeah, guys. Yeah, go deep, man. Some more self-analysis, a pain that hurts so good.
Yeah. So satisfying.
Working through some shit, guys. That's what we do. And from the AZ to the
Yeah.
NZ.
Yes. From the AZ to the NZ. I love it. Totally.
Shit, yeah. And all the space in between, the liminal spaces, and all those places that we go in our mind's eye. I continue to move forward, and I encourage you to move forward in your growth, and enjoy the experiences along the way,
Awesome.
making it a good day and a good night, and moving forward in hope and not fright. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. All right. Well, from wherever you are, a good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And until the next episode, signing off.
Ciao.
Ciao for now.